Hey guys, just wanted to hop on live really quick because I just had this experience and I was gonna write a post about it, and then I realized that post would probably take like 5 paragraphs to accurately describe what I'm feeling, and so I was like, I'm just gonna go live because that's like so much easier. So, if you saw my post earlier, I posted about going to a local cafe in Atlanta that is, I think there's like 5 of them in Atlanta that are celebrating the new release of Gilmore Girls. Um, they're doing Netflix original like new series following up the lives of the Gilmore Girls, and I am a huge Gilmore Girls fan. I watched it when it first came out, and during my postpartum period, that's pretty much all I watched since I was home 24/7 and I was having so much anxiety and depression that was like that show was like comfort for me. It was like eating comfort food. It was watching that show. And my husband would joke that he would come home and he'd already know what I'd be doing, which would be watching Gilmore Girls. So I even got him into Gilmore Girls because I was just watching it so often. He's like, "What is this show about?" And he actually thinks it's a great show, which is so funny because it's such a simple show. It's how shows used to be before they got all like dramatic and murder scenes. So I think it's a great show. I love it. So I wanted to go celebrate at a local cafe that had sort of like decorated themselves like Luke's Diner, which is the centerpiece of that storyline. And, they were doing like cute things like giving out free coffee and all this stuff. So I went, and the closest one to me that I could access was like 40 minutes away. So I found out about this like an hour before they were going to stop serving. So I put my son in the car, my 9-month-old, and drove 40 minutes to this cafe in a city called Cumming, which is rather far from where I live, but I thought, it's a new experience. We'll get to like experience a new city and do something different, right? And celebrate Gilmore Girls, which I am so excited about. I get there, right? And there's a line out the door. First of all, there are people with small children leaving because the line is moving so slow. So I park the car and I'm like, you know what? Luckily I have the time. So I'm just gonna wait in line and just see what this coffee shop has to offer. So I wait in line and I finally get to the front. I was probably in line about 35 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating. I was there for a long time. 35 minutes, and I had to obviously wait. They had a drink load, so I had to wait for all the drinks before mine to get made and served out. And I ordered something that I hadn't seen and that I saw was on their menu, which is a matcha tea latte. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a matcha tea latte and enjoy that. The weather's really, really nice, whatever. Well, so first there was the wait. Then they served me my drink, and it's terrible. I mean, it is probably, I was a barista for several years, and I may have a different standard for drinks, but it was just really bad. It tasted like no matcha was in there. It was just coconut milk. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to drink this. So I handed it back to him, and I'm like, could I just have a cup of coffee? It's fine. Drip coffee is perfectly fine. He's like, sure, yeah, I'm so sorry. Here's a drip coffee. So I take my drip coffee. I kind of put some creamer in it really quick and walk out. I've had coffee from this particular company before, so I was like, I'm sure I'll like their drip coffee. Well, I needed to change my son at this time, right? Like he's getting antsy because we've been waiting for so long. His diaper is like super full. I have to go into my car and change him. And I take a sip of that coffee and it was awful. Terrible. Terrible. Like I don't even understand how you make coffee that tastes that bad. It was really, really bad. And at this point, I just wanted to laugh because I had returned the first drink, which was awful. And then the second drink, which was drip coffee, was equally terrible. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna change my son. I'm gonna put him back in his car seat, and we are gonna drive to a Starbucks because I know they make matcha tea lattes the way I want them. So I'm just gonna drive there, and I'm gonna correct this entire experience and get what I want out of it. I looked up, there was a Starbucks about a couple minutes away, so I said, perfect. We got in the car, we drove there. It ends up being inside of a Kroger. We live in Georgia. Here we have Kroger's, and inside of Kroger's there are Starbucks. Miraculous. So at this point, I'm feeling a little bit inconvenienced. I can feel the urge to get angry and have anxiety. I've driven a really long way. I waited in line a really long time. And now this happens, and it happens twice. Both things that I was served were terrible. in the past, I would have immediately had a lot of anxiety and been like really upset about that experience. As silly as that sounds, it would have totally like knocked me out of orbit. And so here's kind of like a plug-in for coaching, maybe. But I don't care because it's true. After becoming a coach and having to work so diligently at understanding a business that I knew nothing about, and having to do trial and error over and over again just to find my voice as a coach and find what worked for me, it made me very resilient. It has made me very resilient. And I feel like I handle situations now that would have typically stressed me out completely differently. So I got in the car and I was like, I'm just going to correct this. I'm going to go someplace I know will have what I want and no issues. So I go into the Kroger and there's no line at the Starbucks. Bonus. I'm now also very hungry. Bonus, I'm in a grocery store. The lady at the counter was super nice. She was like very calm and had this really easy energy about her, which immediately like calmed me down. And she made the perfect drink and she gave me ice water and she was just such great service. That experience was so positive. And as I'm waiting, this elderly woman comes up and starts playing with my son who's in his car seat, and she just tells me how cute he is, and she's just like making him giggle and he's laughing, and that was just a sweet experience. And then, in between the two ladies who worked there at the Kroger, the older one says to me, "You are really fit. Like, you're a really strong mom." And, I'm wearing a cutoff so she can see my arms, I guess. And so she just, assumes like a fit mom. And the lady in the counter at Starbucks says, "Yeah, what do? You look super fit." And then I started laughing because it's the first time since I've become a coach and started working out consistently that someone who doesn't know me and doesn't know my story has complimented me on my physique in person, or has said anything like that. Like, "Wow, you look so fit." So for me, it felt great, for one. I felt like I was getting positive affirmation for the work that I've put into my body. And, I shared with them, I was like, "Well, I work out 30 minutes a day in my house, and that's how I stay fit." And they were like, "Really?" Like, they couldn't even believe me, which was the most, it really made me laugh because they were so in disbelief. They're like, "Oh, well, this baby's really small. Like, how old is he?" I'm like, "He's 9 months." And he's like, "Wow, you look great for having a baby that's 9 months old." And I was like, "Thanks. Yeah, that's all I do. I just eat well and I work out 30 minutes a day in my house." So it turned into an opportunity to like educate, and randomly I ended up at this random Starbucks that I would have never ended up at if I hadn't gone to this place first and had a horribly disappointing experience, which then kind of redirected me there. And I had a very super pleasant experience inside of that Kroger and with those ladies. And I left feeling so full of joy and just appreciated and seen. And my drink was delicious and the food I got was awesome. And I just drove home those 40 minutes in such peace and like happiness. I could have driven home in those 40 minutes super pissed and upset that, my orders were totally effed up at this other place and that it was just didn't go the way I had planned, right? And as I was driving home, I thought, isn't that such like life? Isn't that such like life that we go into an experience and we have an expectation of how it's going to turn out, and then it doesn't turn out that way. And then we try to correct it, and then it still doesn't turn out the way we wanted, right? And then what do we usually do is we get pissed, or we get upset, we get disappointed, we get frustrated, we get overwhelmed, and we stop, right? We stop at the point of pain and don't persist because now we're frustrated or upset. Instead of choosing to redirect and figuring out how you can turn that experience into something that you actually want, and then going at it again from a different angle, which is what I did by choosing to go to another place that I knew would offer me something that I did want. And just by doing that, like, I shifted that entire experience around and had such a pleasant, like, I literally just got home. I've been on the road or somewhere for like 2.5 to 3 hours, and I'm not even upset. Like, it feels like I wasted my morning, but I didn't. And I just feel calm because I fixed it. I took a situation that could have been very frustrating and agitating for someone who has anxiety, and I turned that shit around and made it work for me. So, in sharing my experience, what I just want to leave you guys with is when you're going at life, if you're really living life, if you're really putting your 110 into your experience of life, then you're going to run into moments where you're going to feel like you failed or where shit just isn't going the way you want it to go. That's bound to happen if you're putting yourself out there and going for what you want in your life. But when it doesn't work out, when it doesn't turn out to be what you wanted, whether that's a relationship or a business opportunity or a job or a fitness program or whatever, just redirect course. Don't stop there. Don't stop and say, well, this didn't work. Well, this is a failure. I'm a failure. Just don't stop. Figure out what didn't work about that experience and turn it around and go at it from a different angle with a new perspective. And leave a sweet taste in your mouth, not a bitter one. I think a lot of us live with bitterness because we stop. We stop when it hurts. We stop when it sucks. We stop when we're frustrated instead of allowing ourselves to rise above the situation and make something sweet out of that experience. And to me, that makes a world of a difference in the quality of my life, is learning how to handle that, learning how to be resilient and not stop at the point of pain, not stop when it's really frustrating and when most people would. And that's why some people excel and have a great experience of life and other people do not. It's not because they're lucky. It's not because they're blessed. It's not because they were born with a star over their head. It's because they know how to work with their circumstances. They know how to choose their experience. They know how to rise above a circumstance. So if you want to live a happy, joyful, blessed life, learn to choose your experience. Learn to rise above yourself. And with that, I leave you guys.